The righteous bust.
What's good, everybody? I'm Winston A, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is my ranking, the definitive ranking of the Bad Boys franchise. Now, if you are new to the channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, man. Be sure to like this at the end of it. If you do enjoy the video, leave a comment for the algorithm. I appreciate that. And we are on that climb, man. I'm so close to hitting 3,000 subscribers. I'm trying to do it just a step at a time. And we're also super close to actually monetizing the channel. So if you haven't checked out any of the other videos here at the end here, go check something out. Open one of the playlists and check some of the stuff that I've done. I got comedy, I got reviews and reactions and all sorts of good stuff on here, man. So please be sure to do that. Now, for those of you that have been following, and maybe you're looking at this playlist as a whole right now, I've been covering all of the Bad Boys films as part of a rewatch series to kind of go back through it, talk about some of the stuff that I liked, some of the stuff that I didn't like, and getting ready for Ride or Die, which then lead to my non-spoiler review of Ride or Die as well, which I absolutely loved the film. It was a lot of fun. All that being said, the question then becomes, now that you've essentially gotten all these films, which of the Bad Boys is the best? If anything, for those that know, there was an argument going on between me and Christian Harloff, who I do Capes and Cows with over on his channel, where he said that Bad Boys 1 was the best, and I said Bad Boys 2, and there was an argument back and forth, and he started a poll, and people were voting on it.
3 days of this shit got my nerves all rattled.
I didn't even see what the final stuff is, but I'll put it up right here to see what the final vote was. But I'm going to give my definitive list of what I think is the best of the Bad Boys films. I'm going to give you my pros and my cons of why I feel that way one way or the other. So is your list going to agree with me? We'll find out. The one thing that I know is that Bad Boys Ride or Die, Bad Boys 4, brought in $104.6 million worldwide this year, with $56 million of it this weekend, opening weekend, 56 million of it happening here in the States, making this a certified banger, man. Absolutely. I know that the budget wasn't crazy high. I want to say it was only about right around 100 or maybe 120, something very close in there, so nothing crazy. So the fact that they've already essentially made their money back is absolutely huge, and it just goes to show that these two directors really know what they're doing. So if you haven't, I'm gonna say this right now, this is a spoiler discussion, so if you haven't seen all the Bad Boys films, just understand I'm gonna be talking about plots, I'm gonna be talking about all sorts of stuff. You might even see some clips on here, but I'm going in. It's your only warning. I got some notes here, so I'm gonna try and make sure I'm paying attention to camera. I'm probably do a lot of cutaways, but I got some notes, so we'll do this. So to start off, this may be controversial, it may not, but at number 4, I actually have the OG Bad Boys from 1995. Now, here's some of the highlights about the original Bad Boys. First of all, you kick the franchise off, and it's already hard as it is to put a world together, put a chemistry of actors together, the right crew, the right director and writers to lead this vision. And so that was already hard to do, but where I give so much credit for this first film is that it ends up being the most grounded really out of all of them. You get a lot of spectacle in the other films, whether they're good or not and all that, there is a lot of spectacle kind of going on there. And so I think that this was Michael Bay's first theatrical film, so he actually kind of reined it in a little bit, you know, and that's one of the highlights. I also think another highlight, this is one of those classic 90s buddy cop movies. You're talking about the Rush Hours, the Lethal Weapons are technically, 80s, you got a little bit in the 90s. You had your Die Hard, which again is mainly just John McClane, but by the time you get to like With a Vengeance and all that, he's starting to have partners and things like that. Though I guess he was kind of partnered up with, the Family Matters dad down on the ground, at least with that. So you got a really solid 90s buddy cop action going on, which I thought was really, really good. On top of that, again, great world building. You really set the stage here of the captain and his anger issues and cigars smoking, cussing all the time, Marcus and his patterns, like obsessed with Skittles. He says Skittles in the,
Freeze, mother bitches! Wait. Hey, freeze, bitch!
Freeze, bitch. Oh, shit. Put the gun down and give me a pack of tropical fruit bubblicious. And some Skittles.
So even his Skittles and his family and what that is and how, his wife don't play. She is not playing.
You can keep the wedding ring in your pocket because your new little girlfriend.
And then you set up Mike being the playboy and how he is, and you get the car chases and the epic gunfights and everything. There's a lot of really fun stuff to love about this. But some of the stuff that maybe some of the cons or the lowlights, if you will, it's a pretty basic cop story. There's nothing about it that really makes it unique or special. If anything, the villain in this movie sucks. I really like the actor who does it. Again, I can never remember his name. I should probably learn it at this point. But I love him in Kiss of the Dragon. I actually really like his performance there. I like him playing across from Jet Li and whatnot. And he's fine in this movie, but he's got a standard villain attitude. You get rid of witnesses. And, like, there's nothing special about him. His motivations aren't that special. Like, doesn't really do anything for me. You know what I mean? It's also Michael Bay's first theatrical film, which I mentioned, which also means that because he's trying to make sure that, you know, he's still out here in these streets, he wasn't making bold choices yet. And I didn't see a lot of bold choices there. And then finally, of all of the, I guess, thirds that you're getting, and it's typically a love interest for Mike Lowry, or at least a major interaction with one of the two of them, I thought T. Leone was just okay. Like, I do like some of the stuff that she does. I thought she was just okay in this personally. And so I think you put all that together, it brings it down. Now, you do get some of your early establishing stuff. I missed this in the highlights. So like the, you know, from now on, that's how you shoot. From now on, that's how you drive.
Now that's how you supposed to drive. From now on, that's how you drive.
Now, you know, that like stuff like that, the bad boys, like you're setting that up, but again, very basic to that point. It brought a crowd. It had people excited to see this duo, and you could see that there is something magic between Will and Martin. But at this point, they aren't there yet. They just simply aren't there yet. Okay, coming in at number 3. I don't have recency bias. I got to put Bad Boys Ride or Die. Now, here we go. About Bad Boys Ride or Die. Genuinely, really loved this film. I had a lot of fun. It is the best action in the franchise. You have Armando essentially as a cartel ninja. You saw some of that in you know, the third film in Bad Boys for Life, but you got him like fighting off all these other prisoners that are about to shank him in the yard, and him helping them charge and taking out God knows how many guys in that final push and whatnot. The final Gator Farm battle was amazing, and watching all of the different players involved and how they're doing stuff and whatnot. The helicopter battle when Armando was still under arrest, and that whole fight sequence was fantastic. And the other thing that I really like about these directors, I believe it's Adil and Bailil. I apologize if I butchered that, gentleman. I keep trying to do better about it, but you know, it's a little hard for me. They're really good at exploring real life themes, and specifically, they started this in For Life, but in Ride or Die, they're really focused on aging. And you know, Mike really starting to grow up and really be a different person. You have Marcus, you know, he has a near-death experience, and not even from a gunfight, just from having a heart attack and whatnot, and how that completely changes him. Like, he's actually gone there for a while and has one of those near-death off to the afterlife experiences, seeing the captain and in heaven and all that kind of stuff. And so it really opened his eyes about it. So I really liked enjoying that kind of stuff, and really exploring a lot of that and cherishing life and how important that is.
Gonna be tested. Just know we're good.
Tonight.
And specifically as someone that suffers from, you know, mental health issues, so, you know, depression and anxiety, and I know I'm neurodivergent, I have ADHD and all that kind of stuff. I really appreciated taking the time to talk about anxiety and panic attacks and where those come from and how they can affect you. Because there's a lot of machismo in the Black and Latin communities. They're like, oh, bitch, you just need to toughen up, all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, stop being a little punta, like all that kind of shit. And they go there. And it's a real thing that people deal with, and they don't always know what they're dealing with. So I really appreciated the time to look into that. Great payoffs over the 30 years, of course. You got Marcus and the Skittles again.
Is that Skittles on the counter, Marcus?
This ain't mine, Mike.
Yes, it is.
Shut the fuck up.
I gotta go. Call 911.
You see plenty of flashbacks throughout the film to remind us of various things that were going on in previous adventures. But probably the greatest thing about this movie, and there's a lot to like about it, has to be fucking Reggie. You want to talk about a 30-year payoff, and it's technically less than that. It would technically be about 21-year payoff for Reggie specifically, but he was the MVP. First of all, he was dropping bodies. Like he got clowned a lot throughout this series, including even knowing that he's a military man, because we do see that he's a Marine in the third film, but now, he'd just come back from deployment and Marcus is clowning him. And so you're sitting here thinking, okay, well, he is a Marine. We don't know how badass he is, whatever, but like he's doing his thing, blah, blah, blah. And then people start trying to come and kill the family. And Reggie was ready and waiting, man. And all I know is I was at a late screening of this when I went, and people were hooping and hollering. And the things that I've heard at people in their theaters and how they jumped up out their seats and like, go on, Reggie, with your bad self. And then my nigga hit this right here. It was so good, man. It was so good. And to finally get to the end of that, and you do this almost the same shot from where we got introduced to him when he was, coming to take out their daughter, take out Marcus's daughter. But now he's like, I'm come over to grill the chicken. They're like, hey, little boy, you ain't do this grown man stuff. And then they both look at each other and go, he's still back there, huh? Damn, he did protect the family. And he might be able to kill us. Like, I'm getting a little old. He was moving kind of fast. Maybe we should just let him do it. And so they're like, I'll go make the table. I'll go do the potato salad or the beans or whatever it was. And you just see Reggie just... I just thought it was beautifully done. And it gave me a little bit of an idea that I'm seeing other people talk about too, that we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, here's some of the lowlights on it. While the action's a lot of fun, we have officially crossed into the Fast and the Furious franchise territory. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I do enjoy those films a lot. But if you're talking about kind of stripping away some of the groundedness, one of the things about those films is they're essentially superheroes without superpowers. You're doing all sorts of stuff. That helicopter fight doesn't make sense in the way. There's no way you're holding that cage, adrenaline going or not. There's no way you're holding that cage through the air while it's spinning and spiraling down. And that helicopter, that's not happening. The flames on the van thing.
You set the damn fan on fire.
Everybody relax. The fire's on the outside. Now it's on the inside.
That's not happening. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't necessarily make my logical sense, including even when Marcus gets his arm bit by that damn alligator.
Be gone, Gator.
I rebuke you.
That motherfucker racist, Mike. That motherfucker racist.
There would have been a lot more damage, and we didn't really see all that. So there's just little things here and there that you really have to suspend disbelief and just realize, okay, they're a little more than human at this point, if we're just being honest. I also think that Martin Lawrence still did a good job, but in my opinion, I think this was my least favorite performance of his throughout the series. Again, he's still a great actor. He's still very funny, but I thought some of the jokes just didn't hit for me, like the jelly bean thing and the...
You had? No, black jelly bean. Nobody likes that shit.
Slow-mo Kool-Aid or whatever that was and whatnot. I thought that was a little much. Some of his one-liners I didn't really love as much either. But I do know that both the Marcus in the movie and then Martin Lawrence in real life have also been dealing with a little bit of health stuff throughout the years. So I also know that he's not quite as crazy high energy zany as he used to be at like his peak, from the Martin sitcom days and the early Bad Boys films and all that other stuff, so things will move around. And then finally, I think the other main thing that I didn't love is the number of just plot devices instead of compelling storylines. So for example, I love that Mike Lowry finally got married. That's incredible. I find it kind of hard to care about her just from the standpoint of like, we don't really spend a lot of time with her. We get the, they met during his physical therapy from being shot in the third movie, and that's how they kind of fell in love and all that. But I don't really know her from nobody. We did not spend time with her. We at least spent a decent amount of time with Gabrielle Union in the second film, so I got to know her and I cared a little bit more when she was kidnapped.
50,000 in hundreds for your 50,000 in tens. Third party takes his million in these 5 briefcases here. I hope I'm not losing you, Chief.
I hate math.
So for your $3 million that we shrunk for you, you get $2 million in clean money back.
But other than the fact that this is Mike's wife, I didn't necessarily care. If anything, I was more concerned for his son than I was about his wife the whole time, and he was in the midst of the action. But that's because we've had time to get to know him. Same thing with the captain's family. I obviously love the captain, but we have never met his family. They seem to just kind of come out of nowhere. So this idea of his daughter and I'm going to get revenge, I don't know who you are, and I don't really care.
We got 2 suspects, Lowry and Burnett.
I understand why your motivations are there, but if we had met her a couple of times in the previous films or something like that, like met her, maybe there was a one-off in the funeral that I'm forgetting or something like that, I think I would have been a little bit there. But again, this redemption moment, it felt, the redemption of Armando felt like what shoehorned her in. She needed Armando needed someone to prove himself to, more or less. So that's just me. I think that's one of the things that also held it back as well. So here's where things are going to get a little bit interesting. Very curious. Go down to the comments right now. Before you watch the rest of this video, I want you to go in the comments and I want you to tell me what you think I'm going to say is number 2 and what's number 1. And then after that, I want you to maybe leave a follow-up comment if you agree with my decision on how I go with this last one here, these last 2. So at number 2, I actually have 2003's Bad Boys 2. I know, crazy, right? But let me tell you some of the highlights, and then I'll give you some of the reasons why I actually have, obviously, at number 1, Bad Boys for Life. So some of the highlights, obviously, these are some of the most iconic fight scenes, by far. The Haitian fight scene.
Fuck you, how's that? I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker. Fuck you, my ass. Fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck you.
Or, the bodies flying out of the van.
That man on the horse. That man. Oh, that shit is nasty. Get him off. That shit is nasty. That shit is nasty.
The invasion of the Cuban drug lord Tapia's home, like mega mansion. Those are some of the most iconic fights we have seen in action comedies, in action movies, maybe ever. Like, they stick out in your mind. The Haitian fight and the invasion of Cuba, for sure. It also has some of the most iconic and pop culturally significant scenes, quotes, references, and music you can think of. Again, Reggie's info. Who the fuck is Reggie?
Who the fuck are you?
I'm Mr. Burnett. I'm Reggie.
Smoke that shit. Nigga, who that is, dog? Reggie. Who the fuck is Reggie?
The KKK intro that's going on.
The man has a gun to my head.
I bet he'll put it down if I put a hollow point in his eye now, won't he? Your partner's a cocky nigga.
Damn, now what's that necessary, sir? How come he can't just be a cop? He got to be a nigga, too.
The electronics store.
And you two motherfuckers need Jesus. Cover your ears, baby.
And Marcus accidentally ingests ecstasy and that whole thing.
Well, I love it when you call me bunny. Shit. Yeah, I do, girl. You should see this sexy shit I got on.
The woosah.
Usa. Officer Mike. Qué rico, papi.
Papi, that's daddy, right?
Yeah.
Let alone the song Shake Your Tail Feather. Like, F Diddy to the end of the earth at this point now. But that song, Shake Your Tail Feather, with Nelly, Diddy, and Murphy Lee is iconic. And, obviously was a song for this movie, but was a big, big song out on its own after this. So those are all some of the cultural significant stuff that comes out of this when you think about it. Let alone this is peak Martin and Will. Like, their chemistry is just on another level with these jokes and their relationship, both inside and outside of the film. They are just on one, and it is absolutely amazing. And you're also catching them in the middle of career highs. So, for example, Martin had just finished his sitcom at the end of the 90s there, and then he did the movie Life, Blue Streak, Big Mama's House, Black Knight, and National Security leading up to Bad Boys 2, right? And Will, we didn't even really hit peak of Will's career yet. Like, we were just on the way, because right before this, he had finished up Fresh Prince, then he had Men in Black, the Big Willie Style album, which I don't know if he won a Grammy for that one as well, but like Getting Jiggy With It, Miami, like Just the Two of Us, some of the biggest songs in the 90s, man. You had the movie Enemy of the State, you had Wild Wild West, The Legend of Bagger Vance. He got his first Oscar nomination from Ali, Men in Black 2, and another album, Millennium. And then after this, went on to do I, Robot, Hitch, and then The Pursuit of Happiness, where he got another Oscar nomination. So they're both just, this is right when you're getting the peak of where they're about to go. You know what I'm saying? And then finally, again, talking about villains, of all the villains, this is the one that I found the most interesting. Yes, he was kind of a standard 2000s cop villain, but he's like over the top and whatnot. The little subtle details of him. He's like, they're painting the Last Supper. Why are you putting that shit? It's fucking depressing. I just want two little angels looking over me. You got the mama. The mama's ridiculous.
Fuck
has happened to this gun? My son is gonna slice you into chorizo.
Mama, I'm very sorry.
Johnny Tapia, of all four of the main villains, is the most interesting villain that you see throughout all of this. Some of the lowlights, some of the cons, there's not a whole bunch. I mean, it is over the top all the time. Everything about this is extreme. The slow motion, the butt chunk getting flown out after getting shot. Marcus gets shot. Exploding an entire mansion, it's insane. Some of the stuff that happened in this film. And I love it. I love it to death. But as far as just like being that, sometimes you're just like, God damn. This is giant Michael Bay fluff, essentially the same thing I said. But that's about it. Those are only real things that you're kind of like, and those aren't necessarily cons. They just, that's where you're going. So now when we get to Bad Boys for Life, the first thing that goes on is that this, to me, was the first truly gripping storylines of the season. And when I say that, I talked earlier about these brothers, these directors, really getting into themes and really discussing real things in the midst of this action comedy series. First of all, Mike, both of them are getting older. And that manifests in a number of different ways. Mike not being invincible, and then like meeting Ammo and realizing this next generation's about to replace him, after he got shot and everything like that. So I think having to come to terms with that is a big deal. Let alone for Marcus, watching your friend almost getting killed, but like he refuses to wear his glasses ever because
Put your glasses on!
What the hell was that? That was a bad throw.
How he became more religious because of Mike, and the fact that, what does retirement look like? He's made the decision that he wants to retire. So it's like, what does that look like? Again, getting older, really diving into that. And what does, you're not the same person you are at 20, as you are at 28, as you are at 35, as you are at 46. Like you continue to change, let alone Armando's intro. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was a great twist of, this brash young kid who's out here just reckless, and he's able to body people however he needs to. The fact that he is Mike's son and what that means about how he was raised and the life he was put into, as well as all of the amazing callbacks that you really saw in this series. Again, more Skittles, that was fun. The fact that Reggie ended up getting married to Marcus's daughter, I talked about that a little bit earlier. I thought that was huge. And they didn't even start off with that. They started off with him having a baby and then be like, you better do right by my daughter, and like almost a follow-up to Bad Boys 2, and then so they get married. I thought that was great. Having Michael Bay do cameos both in this and in the fourth movie, I thought was amazing. Again, the action was great. And to that point, Bad Boys for Life ended up being a top grossing film of 2020. I talked about this earlier. It ended up with a little bit over 450 million, I believe, something like that. Maybe a little less, but somewhere in that range. And dominant. Now, mind you, part of the lowlights, that's a little misleading because remember, obviously, COVID happened in 2020. So once the movie theater shut down in like March, April, and really didn't kind of come back for the most part throughout that year, not a lot had room to overtake it. I think it ended up at like number 4 or something like that. Also, this is the beginning of us seeing Will and Martin be a little bit older, and you can kind of tell Will still kind of has it just because he still remains like an action star, but he had taken some time away from starring in movies. He didn't do quite as many as he had in the past, and most of them tended to be more dramatic and not require him to jump off of buildings. It was the concussions and ultimately what would be the King Richard and things like that. So him not having to be as physical, but you can kind of see that they're getting a little older. And then finally, the villain's motivation is fine, but the Bruja honestly is a little boring compared to Tapia. Not her motivation. I think, feeling betrayed by someone that she loved and all that. I think that that's real. And knowing that he's a cop, knowing that she is one of the drug kingpins. But I just think Tapia was just more interesting. So, that's just where I'm at. So I want to know what you think, hearing all that. I'm going to get to 2 last little bits before I get out of here, but I definitely want to see down in the comments. Let me know. Do you agree with this? Do you not agree? Etc. Let me know. Now, finally, the big 2 things I want to talk about first is, of course, Two very quick kind of news articles that came out. Will and Martin were asked about the possibilities about a part 5 after Ride or Die's success. Bad Boys Ride or Die was a box office hit, earning $104.6 million in its opening weekend and covering its massive budget. This success has already sparked a conversation about the possibility of Bad Boys 5. During a recent press tour per Entertainment Weekly, stars Will Smith and Martin Lawrence revealed some conditions for the sequel to Bad Boys 4. Will explained that the Bad Boys franchise has developed into an entire universe of characters with its own mythos and history. He emphasized that as long as the creative team finds compelling stories to tell within that world, they will continue making movies. Will Smith stated, "It is a world and characters that are just an absolute joy to be with. In a movie theater with Mike and Marcus, it just feels like home. So as long as there's a reason, I never wanted to be one of those dudes who just make sequels because people will go. I want to make them because there is something to say and the characters have a place. I want to make them because there is something to say and the characters have a place that they're developing to that will be interesting and fun to watch and maybe a little bit helpful." Will Smith joked that Bad Boys 5 would likely rely more on the younger cast members introduced in the series, and he said these younger actors are going to need to do more of the stunts, that's for sure. And Martin Lawrence followed up, agreeing with his co-star, saying, "We'll have to see about Bad Boys 5. You know, I never say never, but it has to make sense also. If the fans ask for it, you know, Will could come back. We always have so much fun making these movies. Will and I have a great time working together. So as long as the fans want it and the demand is there, I'll keep giving them what they want." Bad Boys was released on June 7th. The film received mixed reviews by critics, but it has grossed over $104 million worldwide against a production budget of $100 million. So just hearing that, I think I fully agree with Will and Martin here that the only way that you do this film is if it makes sense and if you have something else to say, especially when you take these last two films and how there was something to say, to explore aging, to explore the next generation, things like that. There's actually some substance to it. If that's what you're bringing me, then I would want another film. But if you're just doing it just to see Will and Martin together, we can find another franchise for them to do together if they want. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be action. It could be just straight comedy, especially knowing that, again, as even Will stated, the younger actors need to do more of the stunts at this point. I think that they both are getting up there where it's not that they wouldn't do more action comedies. I think, though, at the same time, they're still just funny individuals. They don't necessarily have to be in these two particular roles. But that's just me. Do you agree with that? Do you absolutely want to see another one? Or do you think that maybe it is time to call it? But that does come to this next very quick thing here that I want to talk about. And specifically, it was a tweet that went out where someone said, "Would you want to see a Bad Boys spinoff centered around them teaming up?" And of course, them being Armando Lowry, or I guess it's not technically his last name, and then Reggie, I don't know Reggie's last name, but essentially Armando being the son of Mike and Reggie being the son-in-law of Marcus as the next generation. I think as far as how badass they are, sure, that's great. But as far as actually seeing a spin-off film with them, I don't think I would necessarily rock with that unless I got to see how Reggie and Armando have chemistry. The reason we come to these films is not just because of the crazy action. If we're going for crazy action, some of the best action I have seen is the John Wick series. And it's not close. Like, this stuff is very, very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But the John Wick stuff is insane. And also has incredible world building. I think that's why we keep coming back to Bad Boys, is because of Martin and Will and how they feed off of each other. So this world is still very interesting, but unless I had proof that Armando and Reggie just were great as a duo, that's not necessarily doing it for me personally. But do you agree or do you feel differently? Please let me know down in the comments. And as I mentioned before, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please be sure to go hit that subscription button, hit the notification bell so you know what stuff's going on. And please like this video and share it out with as many people as you can, man. I would appreciate it. Like I said, I'm on the drive to 3,000. I'm trying really hard to get there. We're getting really close. And then on top of that, we're trying to monetize. So please go watch the rest of the stuff I did covering the Bad Boys franchise. I got a lot of awesome stuff coming, man. The Boys is coming out with season 4. I'm going to do a very quick recap, which should come out, I want to say, on Wednesday. And then I will be covering the Boys as that goes forward. I need to catch back up with my adventures with Superman, so I can give you episodes 3 and 4 on that one. I'm going to be covering The Bear when that comes out. I'm going to be covering The House of the Dragon. And I've been rewatching the Fox films, so you're going to start getting probably 2 of those a week of the recaps of these films, like a rewatch and review, kind of like what I did with Bad Boys, as we prep and on the drive to Deadpool and Wolverine this summer. So with all that, I need to go and edit this because it's going to take some time. I got much love for each and every one of you, man. And always remember, we ride together, we die together. Bad Boys for life. Deuces.
Came all the way to Cuba for this.
Come on. Y'all gotta do that around the landmines.